What is your fucking problem?
How am I supposed to know that?
Know what?
That you're not still seeing her.
Because I just told you for the last time.
Well, that's not enough, Darius, because you have not given me any reason to trust anything that you say.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the blackboard with her number on it. I'm talking about the phone calls at 5 a.m. I'm talking about trying to read your mind every fucking day.
You don't know shit about trust, okay? You don't. You the one who went to New York and fucked the old boy, came back here and hung out with my boys, partying and shit. What is that?
Hello and welcome back to another episode of All Things Girl World. I always say that age and experience gives us a new lens on some of our most beloved movies, and Love Jones is definitely one of them. What once felt like a sensual love story, and in many ways still does, now raises some real questions, especially when it comes to Nina's choices. In today's video, we're doing a deep dive into the 1997 classic movie Love Jones. We're taking a closer look at the decisions made by Nina and how some of her actions complicated the connection with Darius, from leaving abruptly to revisit an old relationship, to entertaining his friend in what felt like a calculated power play. Was Nina really ready for love, or was she just looking for a distraction from her heartbreak? We'll also explore the artistic elements that make Love Jones a timeless classic. Let's unpack this film and why we keep coming back to it. Love Jones is a romantic drama written and directed by Theodore Witcher. It stars Nia Long as Nina Mosley, a young, beautiful, and talented photographer, and Larenz Tate as Darius Lovehall, a young, handsome, and charming poet and writer. The movie is set in Chicago, Illinois, and creates a sexy, sensual, and moody atmosphere with the strong presence of jazz, poetry, and photography. Witcher once described his directorial debut as a modern Chicago version of the Harlem Renaissance, filtered through modern eyes. At the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Nina as she mourns the end of her relationship with her ex-fiancé Marvin, who seemingly ghosted her. As she picks up the pieces quite literally while moving out of their shared space with the help of her friend Josie, played by Lisa Nicole Carson, she declares that she's done with love. However, what she doesn't know yet is that she will soon meet a young man named Darius Lovehall who will challenge everything she thought she knew about love. One of the most memorable scenes in Love Jones for me happens at the Sanctuary, a jazz and poetry club that really serves as the backdrop for the film. It's here that Nina and Darius's paths cross for the first time, and after a brief encounter at the bar, Darius sets his sights on his new muse. With jazz music filling the room and poetry taking center stage, he recites a piece titled A Blues for Nina, which is also referred to as Brother to the Night, written by poet, songwriter, and author Reggie Gibson. A bold and intimate move that sets the tone for just how persistent Darius will be throughout the film. While Nina said that Darius's move embarrassed her, I think it also intrigued her. But let's remember, she was still dealing with the heartbreak of her ex-fiancé leaving her, so rightfully so, she was playing it safe. Still, Darius didn't give up. A chance encounter at the record store just days after his Sanctuary performance put them in the same place again, and once again he asked her out. And again, she turned him down. Now, what Darius did next is something that back in the day may have been seen as romantic, maybe even admirable. It was the 90s after all, and without social media or easy ways to reconnect, seeing someone again often required bold moves. But watching it now, it feels a little creepy. Darius got Nina's address and phone number from a check she wrote at the record store and then showed up to her apartment uninvited, CD in hand, clearly using it as a front to ask her out one more time.
Hey.
What are you doing here? How did you know where I live?
Look, I know it's a little strange for me just to show up to your place like this.
Yeah, what did you do? Follow me home?
No, nothing like that. I got your address from the check that you wrote down at the record store. Look, I know that wasn't very cool, and I apologize.
Things between Nina and Darius start to take off. After finally accepting his invitation to a gathering at a friend's house, they began spending more time together, getting to know each other, bonding over art and music. And while neither of them is quick to admit it, the emotional connection is undeniable. They both insist that it's nothing serious, but it's clear that deeper feelings are developing. At one point, Darius even tells his friend Savon that Nina might be the one. Though he masked the vulnerability behind humor, I think to a certain extent he was frustrated that his feelings for Nina were starting to get the best of him, because he wasn't expecting this situationship to go beyond just kicking it. Nina, on the other hand, genuinely seems to enjoy Darius's company, but there's an emotional detour when her ex-fiancé Marvin unexpectedly re-enters the picture. Isn't that how it always is? I mean, we've all been there. The moment you're trying to move on, here comes the past trying to disrupt the flow. I'll be honest, I don't fully understand Nina's decision to entertain her ex again, but she did, and it's hard not to see that as a sign that she wasn't quite ready to move beyond a friendship with Darius. Maybe not for love itself, but for what love required of her emotionally in that moment.
What is that?
It's a train ticket to New York. I want you to come stay with me. I want us to be together.
I need to know if I still love her or not.
Okay, you're not going to tell Darius, are you?
Well, I don't want to lie to him.
Tell him. Think so. If he snaps, then you got him. And there's no need to go, is there? But if he tries to act all cool and shit, well then, hey, you just gonna have to go. Teach his ass a lesson. Hello, do your thing, girl. Do it.
Let's briefly talk about Josie. She's Nina's best friend, and while her heart is in the right place, some of her advice misses the mark for me. For an example, when Marvin shows up, Josie encourages Nina to be honest with Darius, but then tells her to base her decision on how he reacts. If he gets upset, don't go. If he acts indifferent, then go. The idea presumably was to gauge Darius's emotional investment. But here's the issue. A decision as significant as whether or not to reconnect with an ex, especially one you were engaged to, shouldn't be based on someone else's reaction. It should be about what you want, what you're ready for, and whether the past relationship is truly worth revisiting.
I'm going away next week to New York. So have some other unfinished business that I need to take care of.
Some dude. I understand. And I appreciate your honesty. But we just kicking it, right? So it's cool. I mean, go to New York, do whatever you have to do. Man, ain't got no rings on your fingers.
So you're not mad?
Hell no, I'm not mad.
This is where we see the cost of both Nina and Darius trying to protect themselves by pretending not to care. When pride is the priority, clarity suffers. Also, quick side note, Josie later encourages Nina to talk to Wood, which is another questionable move, probably worse than what we just discussed, but we'll come back to that. Nina heads to New York to explore things with Marvin, and it quickly becomes clear that the connection that they once had is gone. Whatever she was hoping to find just isn't there, so she leaves and comes back to Chicago, but when she returns, she sees Darius with another woman. Now, Nina is clearly hurt, but this is one of those moments where you have to pause and ask, was she really in a position to be upset? She had left abruptly to revisit a previous relationship without offering Darius any real explanation, and while she's well within her rights to feel how she wants, expecting him to simply wait without knowing if or when she'd return isn't exactly fair. It's a reminder that timing and transparency matters, especially when feelings are involved. Then there's Wood, played by Bill Bellamy, and let's just be honest, he was not a good friend to Darius. Throughout the film, there's this constant undercurrent of ego and low-key competition with Wood. He makes several shady comments that hint at jealousy, and when things between Nina and Darius get complicated, he jumps at the chance to insert himself. To make matters messier, Josie was the one who encouraged Nina to give him a shot, and while Nina and Darius weren't in a defined relationship at the time, Wood was still Darius's friend, good friend or not, and that line shouldn't have been crossed. It felt less like genuine interest and more like a reaction to frustration. As for Wood, his motives seemed rooted in ego, not connection. It wasn't about Nina, it was about one-upping Darius. And the irony, Nina and Wood weren't even compatible, and as soon as she wasn't useful to him anymore, he dissed her. So again, what was the point? So between Nina briefly going back to her ex, seeing Darius with another woman, entertaining Wood, getting back with Darius, and then overhearing Darius on the phone with a woman he claimed to no longer be speaking to, things between Nina and Darius began to crack. It became clear that they didn't fully trust each other, and that lack of trust created a wedge that couldn't be ignored.
What is your fucking problem?
How am I supposed to know that?
Know what?
That you're not still seeing her.
Because I just told you for the last time.
Well, that's not enough, Darius, because you have not given me any reason to trust anything that you say.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the blackboard with her number on it. I'm talking about the phone calls at 5 a.m. I'm talking about trying to read your mind every
fucking day.
fucking
You don't know shit about trust, okay? You don't. You the one who went to New York and fucked the old boy, came back here and hung out with my boys, partying and shit. What is that?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember Nina being a smoker at the beginning of the film, so when she's later shown smoking cigarettes, mirroring one of Darius's habits, it stood out to me. It felt like a subtle but telling shift in her character, almost as if she was absorbing the emotional weight of the relationship in more ways than one. Following their final blow-up, Nina was set to leave Chicago again, this time for a longer-term opportunity with Vibe magazine. Upon hearing the news, Darius rushed to the train station what I assume was a last-ditch effort to reconcile, but it was too late. Nina's train had already pulled away, and with it, their chance to mend things, at least for now. But the distance that followed wasn't just physical. It gave them both space to reflect, not only on each other, but on what they truly wanted from love itself. During their time apart, Darius published a book titled Gypsy Eyes, which he actually dedicated to Nina, while Nina continued building her career as a photographer. And even though they weren't in each other's lives, they never seemed far from each other's minds. Eventually, fate, or maybe just timing, brought Nina back to Chicago for work 1 year later. And in a poetic twist, she and Darius would cross paths at the Sanctuary, the very place where they first laid eyes on each other. This time, they were both different, a little older, a little wiser, and maybe finally ready. They reconciled, and while the movie doesn't show every detail of what came next, it leaves us with the sense that this time they were choosing love with open eyes. When people debate whether Love Jones deserves its place as a Black love classic, it usually comes down to the dynamic between Nina and Darius. Yes, their relationship was messy at times. Yes, they both made choices that complicated things unnecessarily. But here's the truth. What relationship doesn't face challenges, especially in the early stages? Love stories, real ones, are rarely clean and simple. And what we saw between Nina and Darius was two people trying to love each other while still healing, still growing, still figuring themselves out. That's not a flaw in the story. That is the story. Let's give the film some grace, not because it's flawless, but because it dares to show a love that's as complicated as it is poetic. One of the things I've always loved most about Love Jones is what the film represents, and more importantly, what it feels like. Beyond the sensual romance and complicated choices, the movie creates an atmosphere that's almost poetic within itself. Set in a moody, overcast Chicago, the city becomes a character of its own, backlit by jazz clubs, rainy sidewalks, intimate lounges, and vinyl record stores. It's dark, it's mellow, and it's magnetic. And when you add in a phenomenal soundtrack featuring Dion Ferris's Hopeless, Maxwell's Something Something, the mellow smooth version of course, and Escapes in the Rain, the entire film becomes an experience, not just a story. But what makes Love Jones truly special is how it showcases what I like to call the artsy side of Blackness. The poetry, the photography, the jazz, the quiet moments of introspection, the emotional complexity. These are parts of Black culture that don't always get center stage, but they exist and they're beautiful. In a media landscape where certain narratives get amplified more than others, it's refreshing to revisit a film that dared to say, this is Black too. Soft, intellectual, romantic, soulful, creative. It's all valid and it's all us. So while Nina and Darius's journey might be complicated, the culture of the film is undeniable. The vibe is unmatched and the impact is lasting. If you enjoyed this video, if you found yourself nodding along, or even rethinking some of your favorite love stories, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves Love Jones too. Let's talk in the comments. Do you think Nina was wrong for some of the choices she made in her relationship with Darius, or was she simply protecting her heart? And what about Darius? Are there things he could have handled differently? If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join the All Things Girl World tribe, where we celebrate the films that shaped us, dive into deeper conversations, and always give flowers to the stories that deserve them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next video.